I'm just going to complete now or move forward and look at Howe's model compared to the others based on the book which is done by Howe's, where she refined her model and she criticized quite a few scholars about their quality assessment of the translation, where she's pointed out various elements. In the previous session that I talked to you, it was about, I mentioned few of these scholars. I think it's important that you see the first episode before you come to this one, otherwise you will not follow what I am, because I'll pick up, you come back to this one, you will not follow if you haven't seen the first episode. Now in this one here, of course, as I was saying about Van den Broek, 1985-1986, which was criticized by Howe's, but with regards to translation quality assessment, where Van den Broek talks about a triangulated procedure where a contrastive pragmatic analysis of the ST and the TT is being done. This analysis reconstructs the internal textual relations of and functions of the source text, which are compared to the translation. You compare them with each other in order to see its adequacy, the adequacy of the translation. During the reconstruction, or this reconstruction, text teams are identified, as they call them, text teams, and their analysis consists of phonic, lexical, syntactic, language varieties, rhetorical devices or stylistic devices, poetic constructions, and some textual conventions related to the grammar, to the punctuation and grammar or grammatical sequences, other sequences. So Van den Broek differentiates between two types of shifts. As you remember, we have shifts according to Catford. If you look at my video about shifts, you will know what are the Catford shifts that are being used and how they are used. But here, Van den Broek differentiates between two types of shifts. One, obligatory shifts. Obligatory shifts are dictated by the TL and cultural system. So in other words, the target language system will actually dictate as to how to make the text cohesive and does not violate any of these, the target text does not violate in any way the target language system, so there are no violations or breaches in grammar or syntax or whatever. This is the obligatory shift. There is also the optional shift, which emanate from the shifts, which emanate from the translator's decision. If you remember when I was translating before this video, I was talking about in my video called Translating from Arabic into English, I was talking about translator's decision or decisions for word choices, for example. When we talk about the word stand or position of Israel or whatever, we were looking at which word will be the best one for the word mawqif. And then I've decided that mawqif will be position and or stand, but not attitude. So you see, the choice of words depends on the decision of the translator. But of course, she has some reservation, some reservation about Van den Broek in terms of his proposition for a detailed. He does not actually provide a detailed account of the model for translation quality assessment, and that's why I mean, this is how I understood what House is actually trying to say. Then, of course, you know, I mean, translation, according to House on page 23, she defines translation as the replacement of a text in the source language by a semantically and pragmatically equivalent text in the target language. And House emphasized, she says, that since equivalence in the fundamental criterion, as it is the fundamental criteria, you know, I mean, equivalence is the fundamental criteria for assessment, to see the quality. The translation quality is done by that. So an adequate translation text has to be pragmatically and semantically equivalent. One. So it has to be pragmatically and semantically equivalent. And of course, with regards to the situation of context, or, you know, you've got Halliday and Hassan, 1989, where she has they both have discussed 3 different functions of the text. They have done that, and that is what they. I'm just trying to reply to. So have discussed 3 different functions of the text. What are the 3 functions that we know and everybody knows if you're one of the students in translation studies, you should know them, and these are the 3 different functions, which I will talk about in the next recording, because I don't want to actually, or maybe I can mention them here. I think the ideational component, which conveys the content, interpersonal function, which conveys the attitude of the translator and the response of the addressees or addressee, and the textual function, which is the last function, which is the use of a text in a particular situation. How you use that text in a particular situation, according to House. So these 3 different components are actually used by House because they are very, very important. House is saying that there is the functional wants to establish in the model. The basic concept of House model is to establish functional equivalence between the ST and the TT. The functional equivalence is to be established through these components, which is the ideational, interpersonal, and the textual functions. These 3 that are done by Halliday, trying to actually establish them. And you can see that the ideational function, ideational one, expresses content, how language manages to convey experience of the world, according to House, and the interpersonal function, which expresses the speaker's attitude and the behavior of the addressee. And then, of course, you have the final one, which is the functional, which is the textual function. The model that just now we are going into details about House's model for situational functional analysis and text translation assessment. It is based on Crystal and Davies' 1969 scheme, where there are 2 dimensions. Okay, the dimension of the dimension for the language user, and the dimension which has got the geographical origin and social class and time, and also the dimension related to the language use. And in that you have medium, simple or complex, participation, simple and complex, social role, relationship and social attitude, and province. And I will talk to them about them in the next recording. Thank you.